Now move on to the next programme, which is illness, disability and carers. And with the discretion of the committee, I might come in just before other members come in, because I also have to go into the House to speak here in a few minutes on people with a disability. I raise two issues with you, Minister. The first one is an issue I raised during the passage of the social protection legislation before Christmas, and that is in relation to the half-rate carers allowance. So it's in relation to people who are in receipt of the state contributory pension and receive the half-rate carers allowance. They are denied access to the fuel allowance scheme. Now, there's an anomaly within the Social Welfare Code that discriminates against that cohort of people. If that person was in receipt of a non-contributory state pension, along with the half-rate carers allowance, they would receive the fuel allowance. And even though these people, their only income is from the state, because it happens to be a state contributory pension, they are actually denied access to the fuel allowance, because the half-rate carers allowance is bizarrely considered additional income. So I know that you gave a commitment in December that you would look at this particular anomaly, and you might provide an update to the committee on that. The second question that I want to raise with you, Minister, and I flagged it with your officials in advance, and that's the issue of long COVID. So we're talking about the enhanced illness benefit payment for people who are diagnosed with COVID. Now, the Oireachtas Library and Research Service produced a paper which I commissioned that has indicated that there are 114,500 people in Ireland today with long COVID and rising, Minister. Now, this has a huge potential cost in terms of your department in relation to illness benefit claims, disability allowance claims, as well as an impact on workforce participation. Now, long COVID has a disproportionate impact on both women and people in their middle age. And we know historically that it is much harder to integrate people from those cohorts back into the workforce after prolonged periods of absence from employment. Now, based on figures, Minister, that your department provided to me through parliamentary question, those claiming the enhanced illness benefit payment who have COVID in excess of 10 weeks, so these are people who have had COVID symptoms for a considerable period of time. Those figures have gone from, in September of 2021, 767 people were in receipt of that payment for an extended period of time. Those figures have gone from September, in the 5 months since September until now, to 4,314 people receiving that payment on a long-term basis. So in the space of 5 months, the people that have been receiving the enhanced illness benefit payment for an extended period of time has gone up by 562%. And that is, Minister, before we have the impact of the Omicron variant, which will have a further significant impact on those particular claim numbers. So we're facing an avalanche of claims in relation to long COVID, even based on your own statistics here. And my question to you, Minister, is what measures are being taken by the department to try and manage this, to work with that cohort of people, to assist them in providing them with support and hopefully getting them back into work either on a part-time or back hopefully on a full-time basis as quickly as possible. So if you could address those two issues, Minister, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Cahir. Well, first of all, the reason we introduced the enhanced illness benefit was to prevent transmission, because we wanted people to stay at home and isolate rather than to go into work. and for that reason, we gave them an enhanced payment. So that they weren't. It meant that they had financial supports while they weren't at work, and that was the primary reason for bringing in the enhanced illness benefit. In terms of those that are ill beyond 10 weeks, the standard illness benefit may be paid for an extended period based on the person's continued eligibility. So this is the primary income support payment for people who are unable to attend work due to illness of any type. So, it'd be very difficult to sort of pluck out COVID, and I do understand those that are suffering from it, but there are others that have other illnesses that last beyond 10 weeks. So how can you say that COVID is it's having more of an impact on them than any other illness that they may unfortunately get? Just to say that 1% of the enhanced illness benefit claims have reached the 10-week threshold. So we have paid out a lot on that, and it was right and proper that we did so, but just 1% of the claims have reached the 10-week threshold. So, as you say, there are numbers there, but to isolate them and treat them differently to other people who have other long-term illnesses, I do think would create an inequity. That's the position. If they don't, most people, who are still recovering from COVID after 10 weeks, they'll transfer to the standard illness benefit. And if they don't meet the contribution criteria for this payment, they can apply for disability allowance subject to a means test. And some will not be eligible as the usual qualifying conditions were relaxed due to public health concerns. In the case of people with a very serious level of ill health, where it can be expected to be permanent or to last a long time, they can apply for invalidity pension subject to the contribution requirements. Moving on then, Deputy, to the half-rate carers allowance and the fuel allowance. I meet carers all the time, both in my constituency and meet the various carer organisations. And one of my priorities since becoming Minister for Social Protection is to do whatever I can to support our carers, because I know well, and you know well, the huge work that they do. So in last year's budget, as you know, I increased the carer support grant to 1,850. So that was in the budget 2021, and it's at its highest level ever now. This year, I increased the weekly carers allowance payment by €5, and most importantly, I brought in significant changes to the mean test. And Cahir, you raised that with me on a number of occasions, and you made some very valid points there. And I was delighted to be the first minister in 14 years to do anything about the means test for carers allowance, and it was something I was very passionate about. So that change means that all carers currently on reduced rate of payment will see their payment increase from next June. It will also mean tens of thousands of carers who didn't qualify up to this point due to the income thresholds will now qualify for the payment. And the increase in the income disregard for a couple was something, again, that you raised with me. I wanted to improve that because I was aware of a lot of cases where a partner, or usually a mother, might have to give her job up to care for a sick child, but because the husband was working or because they had some savings, they didn't qualify. So as a result of these changes that I'm making, a couple can earn up to $750 a week, and the first 50,000 in savings won't be counted in the means test. And I know that the family carers have welcomed that. Again, you did ask about the half-rate carers and the fuel allowance. We are doing a report on that, and as soon as we get that report, we're working on it at the minute, and we get that report finished, we will publish that and lay it before the houses of the Oireachtas. But I suppose it's important to note that since 2013, the payment of half-rate carers allowance does not automatically include a person from qualifying for fuel allowance. If a person is receipt of a qualifying non-contributory social welfare payment and a half carers allowance, then they are deemed to satisfy the means test, and the fuel allowance is payable subject to all remaining criteria being satisfied. If a person is in receipt of a qualifying contributory social welfare payment and a half-rate carers allowance, then the value of the half-rate carers allowance will be assessed in the means test for fuel allowance. Half-rate carers allowance is paid, which is the same as €131 for anybody aged 66 or over, is paid in addition to many social welfare payments at a rate significantly more than the weekly rate of the fuel allowance, which is payable at €33. But as I said, I committed to looking at this, and we're doing a report on it, and when we get that report we'll be laying it before the houses of the Oireachtas. Okay?
Thank you, Minister, for that response. I won't dwell on the other issue, but can I just make the point again, Minister? We've seen in the last 5 months a 562% increase in long-term claimants as a result of long COVID. Now, that is before we have had the impact of the Omicron variant, which is going to drive these figures significantly well in excess of that level. And the point I'm making is we cannot, as a country, ignore what is actually we're about to experience. And yes, in terms of people with a disability, we cannot ignore those. But this is something that's coming at us like a juggernaut. We're getting a heads up in relation to it, and we can't be seen to sit on our hands regarding it.